Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. I just want to do a quick video for you guys to give you some updates. It's about 9 o'clock at night. It won't last too long. Plants are starting to grow pretty well. I'm pretty happy about that. Lights on during the night and the daylight comes into the office. I got mint and basil and thyme and all kinds of cool things. I always recommend having a garden. All right, so where are we at? We're chipping away at our sprints, and we succeeded going through the OBFT hard fork. It was really a great moment for us because everything that went on without a hitch, and nobody noticed anything. It just happened. And of course, scammers and their infinite creativity and capacity were run around trying to convince people to give their keywords over. Unfortunately, a few people fell for it. Just remember, IOHK will never ask you for your keywords. We'll never release products where you have to do that unless I directly tell you over video and blog posts and other things why that's necessary. And even then, there'll be like 6 layers of communication. So if you see a tweet, you see something, don't fall for it. Don't give your private keys away. Use common sense. Anyway, the OBFT hard fork was a really great moment for us. And now we're just kind of working our way through the last minute QA for the Byron Reboot release, which contains the wallet backend. This is the second major milestone on the road to the launch of Shelley, because that's the new code upon which all of Shelley is being built. And so once that's gotten to the consumer, everything comes from one source of truth. Adrestia, the Explorer, the Node, the command line tools, everything is one code base, and it's just simply a matter of iterating from that. So in March, that's coming out, and hopefully in March, we should be able to get the Shelley testnet up and running, or April. It depends on how these sprints work, and we're getting very close to getting a band for the release of the Shelley mainnet. So that band will be 2 months, and basically it'll say this month to this month, and that's the range, and either it's going to move sooner or later, and the band will get narrower and narrower as we get through the month of March. And by the end of the March, that band should compress down to a 2 to 4 week window, and we should have a high degree of certainty. And at that point, we will announce the Shelley launch party. Originally, we wanted to hold it in Kyoto, and that's still the tentative plan. But that does depend upon coronavirus and where Japan's at, where Korea's at, where China's at. There's unfortunately more and more travel restrictions and a bit more difficulty for people to get around. And we may be with COVID-19 in the beginning of a global pandemic. And it's hard to get reliable information. And I've seen epidemiological models that'll say half the world will have corona. And I've seen others that say it's going to completely fizzle out. But unfortunately, Asia is the epicenter, and Japan being so close to China and having so much trade with China, it has unfortunately gotten some infections. And so it's starting to slow things down, certainly slowed things down in Singapore and Hong Kong and other jurisdictions. But for the most part, Japan's holding on there. And we'll see in the next 2 to 4 weeks where Japan sits. So we'll make an announcement in March, more likely than not, if we're going to stick with Kyoto or if we're going to move to a different location for the launch. That said, I really think it would be awesome to do it. Symbolically, it makes a lot of sense. Japan was the origin of Cardano, and it would be a great thank you to the people of Japan for their love, kind, caring, and support. And it'd be really unfortunate if something like coronavirus prevented us from doing that. So I might do it regardless, but I just would like it to be a well-attended event, and it would be a real shame if this black swan kind of cut down our attendance numbers. And so we'll play it by ear. Anyway, the Byron Reboot release is very significant, and we're still sizing up exactly everything that's going to be in it. So we're finishing up the sprint for this month. And then the next sprint will be the polishing and finishing sprint for the Byron Reboot. So with any luck, mid-March is when we'll expect to see that. Although there are certain thresholds we have to cross, and there's some QA burdens. And then I want to make sure that we clear the audit remediation for the Route 9B stuff, because they did find a few issues that we need to fix for that release. So it just depends on how things get into the sprint, and if we complete everything within the sprint, whether it gets done in S7 or S8, Sprint 7 or Sprint 8. And so we'll find out about that. But that's the most significant milestone for the retail side. The OBFT hard fork was our update, and that was basically that Cardano node without the wallet backend being released with OBFT to mode turned on. With the wallet backend integration is for the retail release, and there we've exposed a command line. There's all kinds of new things. There's fast sync, so you should be able to sync your blockchain very quickly. And some of our internal benchmarks show under an hour. Fast wallet restoration, a bunch of things that supports that the current software does not support, along with some new GUI elements and so forth. And we may be able to even get ledger support weaseled in there. So we'll let you guys know. There's going to be now more structure behind how we communicate and we release information. Starting this week, the product management team is going to probably on Friday do their first monthly update. So how this is going to be structured is Parna, who's the senior product manager over Cardano, she's going to give a broad general overview of when she came in, what she's seen, where the product is sculpting at, and then every section of the product, whether it be the wallet backend, the Adrestria component, the Explorer side, the Plutus side, et cetera, each of those has a product manager associated with it. And what they can do is give a 5 to 10 minute update of where they're basically at, how things are getting done, how that velocity works, and so forth. And it would be really cool for Chris to also do an interactive demo of how we do sprints and how we estimate things and so forth, and actually show you guys a sprint. So we'll have some conversations of the exact structure. This is kind of the first time we're doing it, so we'd love your feedback and we'd like to get some polish. But the point is to always make sure that we do it with regularity. You may notice that Dimitris, for example, does the incentivized testnet updates every Friday, and he provides those with great degree of regularity. So to me, it's very important that the product team on a monthly basis communicate with you. We will also do a special event communication March 6th or 7th, somewhere around that time frame. That's when we're doing the PwC workshop. So the CEO of Emergo, the chairman of the Cardano Foundation, and myself, alongside a large group of people from our companies, are descending upon London to work with PwC at a workshop. And basically, this is a complete commercial alignment for all three entities to make sure prior to the launch of Shelley and Goguen that we're all talking from the same book and we've unified our commercial view of how to deploy Cardano and how to sell Cardano. This also includes Fortune 500 alignment. So because PwC has such a great portfolio of clients in that range, they can allow us a direct line of access to a lot of different Fortune 500 firms to have conversations and basically pitch them Cardano and make sure that our content is in line with that. Because we have everybody together, it's a great opportunity to create a lot of videos and content. So no doubt we will do that. And our video maker, Dominic, will be there, and our marketing people will be there, and so forth. So look for a big content dump somewhere around that time frame or the following week, depending upon the editing time it takes to get through it. Now, right on the back of that, I will be traveling to Africa. I'll be in South Africa to meet with the president, and I'll be also in Rwanda, Uganda. I may go to Tanzania because we're developing a telecom deal there, and I'll also be in Ethiopia. So a lot of presidents and kings and other interesting people to meet as I travel throughout Africa, and we'll have some cool special announcements there. We're also going to be working very closely with ICE and others about the community rollout, and the Cardano Foundation will be going with me. So Heinrich, Tamara, and others in their capacity as Cardano Foundation members will be there, and we'll make sure that in their early term 2020 budget that they earmark quite a bit of money for community development and evangelism within Pan-African view. And we have some great partners who have been waiting for resources to execute that. So it's very turnkey. We'll also be probably meeting with the Agricultural Transformation Agency and a few other programs and departments in Ethiopia and other places to discuss track and trace supply chain voucher programs and so forth. So a little bit of business, a little bit of politics, a bit of optics, the usual thing. And so that's going to be a very fun tour. If you happen to be in Africa, do reach out to John O'Connor, and you may have a chance to meet me. I've requested that we do at least one meetup group for each of the African countries that we visit. And so I'll give a speech, as will the Cardano Foundation, similar to what we did with the Swedish event. And basically, we'll just talk about where the project is at, and you're free to ask any questions you'd like. comments, concerns, and complaints. So that's going to be fun. There's also going to be a few academic conferences upcoming, but the most prominent of which is the ZK-Proof standardization conference in April 4th to 6th in London. So I will be there along with Eduardo and Vitali and Markov Kohlweiss, Thomas Kilber, and Piros, who constitute the bulk of our zero knowledge team that we have at IOHK. We've at that point we'll have finished the implementation of Sonix. It's the fastest, most advanced, most unique, and coolest new user updatable zero knowledge proof system. It's a big advancement over prior's systems. We published the paper in December of 2018, and that team has been working on that implementation for over a year. And it's really good to see it finally done. And it's really good to actually go to the standardization conference where Zerocache will be and all the other people who participate in that space and have a discussion about how we can make that a standard library for a lot of people to use. And being a user updatable CRS, it brings a lot of new things to the table. Namely, you don't have to do that wonky launch ceremony to launch a privacy coin from it that Zcash did. So I will be there in April. And likely we'll stick around Europe for a little bit, make sure that we get a lot of things done in anticipation of the launch of Shelley. So things are definitely moving along. We still are on a weekly release cadence with Jormungandr. Jormungandr 8.11 will probably come out on Wednesday. Every week we've been doing a release. And it looks like we're getting into a cadence that the following Monday, we do an update to Daedalus and the wallet backend to connect to the latest version of Jormungandr, along with some Daedalus-specific updates for the incentivized testnet. We're getting to the end of the rainbow with network stability improvements and enhancements. So I fully expect probably in the next 2 to 4 weeks, we should see the vast majority of those stability issues completely resolve themselves. And there's a few features that I'd like to push through. That ITN team, we're having some internal discussions of when to end the support life cycle for the ITN. We may have it go all the way out to the end of March. We may actually have the ITN extended to April, but likely right now our mindset is the end of March for the ITN team, in which case that entire team will be moved to something else. We have 2 projects in mind that both add a tremendous amount of value to Cardano. So we'll make an announcement at a later date, probably towards the back end of March, of when we're going to end the support lifecycle for the ITN and when what that team is going to be moving to. Now, just because support will be coming to end for the ITN doesn't mean the ITN will necessarily shut down. It will run to the point where we do a balance check and the launch of Shelley is imminent. It's just we will no longer be shipping updates for that network. So ideally, those will be well timed with each other, but there might be a few week latency. And it just completely depends upon the stability of the ITN and the user experience of the ITN. And also, have we gained all the lessons that we want to learn? We certainly have learned an enormous amount in a very short period of time about the stake pool experience, key metrics, and we've built a great corpus of stake pool operators. And we started a wonderful dialogue with those operators that is invaluable for the development of Shelley. So we're quite happy to say that it was mission accomplished, and the ITN paid it well more than what we expected. That said, it is a value piece of infrastructure, and it really creates a wonderful dialogue. So we'd like to continue to improve it and continue to enhance the user experience. But with all good things, it does have to come to an end. And that code is not the code that we're going to be launching Cardano with. We're going to be doing that with the Haskell code. So it's a significantly higher testing priority as we enter into the back end of March to verify that the Shelley Haskell code is working properly. The other thing that we've done that was not in the original scope, but was necessary for the success of Cardano, was to begin very in-depth conversations with exchange partners, specifically about the libraries and tools and APIs and other such things that would make it easier to list ADA and also to use an exchange as a staking as a service provider. And we've even begun discussions about co-locating developers in certain cases with exchanges to build certain infrastructure out. So Nick Nafak is the person who's leading that, and probably in his monthly update, will mention this and talk a little bit about how those libraries are sculpting. But the end goal is that when you download Cardano Node with Adrestia integrated, It'll come batteries included for wallet manufacturers, for exchanges, and other people that want to use it, to make it quite easy for people to list us and create some standardization amongst all IOHK products, and make it quite easy for people to have staking as a service or other such things. And we've also begun negotiation with 3 different vendors, and we'll pick one of the 3 with the Cardano Foundation for Ledger support as well, to update the Ledger firmware to support Shelley. And there's a lot of things to do: the BEC32 address standard, cold staking support, multi-sig support, and so forth. And that's a good 2 to 3 months scope of work. And so it's nice to have multiple vendors bidding for that contract. It makes sure that we get better cost controls in. Furthermore, we can kind of make sure that through the vending tendering process, we get exactly what we want. And I would also love to see us on Ledger Live as well, so that you have more options than just the Yoroi interface. So we'll make an announcement when that deal is sealed and the estimated time horizon of when that Ledger support is going to happen. We're still working out whether we can roll out BEC32 support with the Byron Reboot launch in March. I have another meeting about that this week, but it may happen, in which case you'll see the address format change from the old legacy Daedalus style to the new style. So it may not happen. We might have to wait for Shelley for that rollover, but I would hope that that occurs, because BEC32 is a significantly better address format than the one we're using. It's much more concise, easier to read, easier to work with, and certainly it'd be great on Ledger devices, because it's a lot easier to read on that tiny screen. So that's coming as well. Anyway, things are just chugging away and moving along. We have an internal release ban for the launch of Shelley. But I will wait a little bit longer, and I'm going to wait for the product team to make that announcement formally. Perhaps they'll announce something on Friday. We'll leave that to Aparna's discretion. But every 2 weeks, we seem to be satisfying most of what's happening in the sprint. So what we plan, what we do in the retrospectives, they're all looking pretty reasonable, and the velocity is pretty reasonable. And despite the fact that we had to increase the scope of Cardano for the Shelley launch quite a bit, to accommodate all the lessons we learned from the ITN and requirements from our partners, especially partners who want to list us, we seem to be managing and tackling that quite well. The other thing is that teams are working in parallel. Goguen development is looking very good. And actually Voltaire development is starting to look pretty good too. There's some interesting things there, and we'll talk about that. And we're having a lot of discussions about infrastructure on top of Goguen. For example, Oracle's identity, multi-asset standards, multi-metadata standards, and so forth. So at the launch of Shelley, we're going to invite those product managers working on those overlay stubs to go and present, talk. We've also done a lot of commercial discussions. For example, we're now partnered with BeefChain and a litany of other people. And so at the launch of Goguen, we'll have a lot of launch applications, and we're quite happy about those relationships. So we're just kind of chugging away. So this is your update from me. I just got back from Washington, D.C., so I'm a little tired, and life is pretty hectic these days. A lot of traveling, a lot of work, but we're getting it done. And I'm really, really looking forward to launch of Shelley, and it's really just been fun working with you guys, and really been fun to see what the community's come up with. You know, we said we were going to go do some pretty crazy stuff. And the science was pretty crazy, the engineering was pretty crazy, and we did it without compromise as an ecosystem. We built it in Haskell, we built it with formal methods, we wrote specs. This was not easy work, and we didn't do everything perfectly, and there was a lot we didn't know entering into this process that, had we known it, we probably would have done things very differently for the sake of sanity and velocity. But we stuck with it, and you guys, the community, stuck with it. And now that we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I see the sprints one after another get closed, and basically the pile of work gets smaller and smaller for the launch of Shelley, it really does make me excited, because there's not that big of a delta between Shelley and Goguen, and there's really not that big of a delta for what we're planning for Basho and Voltaire. So the work that we have to do ahead of us is much more understandable, manageable, and easier for us to tackle than the work that was behind us. Which was truly exceptional. And the code quality is incredible as well. It's nice that we're proactively finding very weird bugs and strange things using sophisticated testing techniques that you would only encounter every now and then, long after the software had been launched. I'll tweet some papers at some point on the use of TLA Plus with Amazon and the crazy things they were able to discover, along with some things that Microsoft discovered, including with the Xbox memory model, where they were able to detect really weird, strange bugs long before production. So there's certainly a huge value to the use of formal methods, especially when you're building large-scale distributed systems or dealing with things with unbounded complexity. But to be able to actually see it myself and see it with the products I build is really a testimony to how far these tools have gotten in the last 25 years. It's also really cool to see that we've written 2 programming languages, and we're getting to a point where those programming languages can actually be used and deployed, and developers can play with them, and tooling can be constructed for them. And our conversations are now less theoretical, and they're far more about basically interoperability and tooling and IDEs and these types of things, and execution model units and so forth. We call them X units. So it's pretty cool to see that pivot in the conversation where things are starting to get very applied. It always makes us nervous because we've been building for so long, and our nose has been to the grindstone for so long, and that now that we're here, we hope you guys like it, and we hope the decisions we made were good decisions. But on the other hand, if they are good decisions, it really is cool to bring something completely creative, new, and refreshing to the table for everybody in the space to use and see. So thank you so much for your patience, your love, your support, and it's going to be fun. This year, as I mentioned, is like an iceberg, and the waters are receding, and you're seeing that there's just been so much we've been doing for so long. And the next 2 months in particular are going to be a crazy, wild roller coaster ride with lots of stuff coming out, lots of news from us, the foundation, Emergo, and others. And we're all kind of working in lockstep in parallel. Not everything is perfect. The McCann marketing, for example, I was a bit underwhelmed with the pitch that they gave us. So we have to go back to the drawing board and hopefully improve that a bit. I'm also not so happy with the way that my company has been doing product marketing historically. We solved proof of stake as a problem. Despite that, we're not even mentioned in the proof of stake Wikipedia article. So this means that we have to put much more fundamental attention to product marketing. And it's become a big priority and focus for me as a CEO, especially in the coming months. And I won't accept mediocrity. It's not fair to our scientists and engineers for them to have invested years of their lives, and in many cases, the best years of their career, or in some cases, the twilight of their career, meaning this is their last major project they'll work on prior to retirement, for that only to be met with substandard marketing. We should dominate there too. That's as much of a science as it is an art. And it just means we have to get the right people. So we will do that. And we're definitely going to be very aggressive about the USPs that we have. Ouroboros is a best-in-class protocol. Extended UTXO is the best-in-class accounting model. Plutus is a best-in-class language. We have a self-healing, beautiful network stack that spent 3 years in development. That's a culmination of over 30 years of knowledge in network theory. And that's, again, a best-in-class thing. We didn't copy anything from anybody. We learned from the best and brightest, and we brought completely new ideas to market, and we paid the price to bring those ideas to market. So it's incredibly important that people understand that these things are not only real, they're not theoretical, they're real, but they've been built, and they're here, and they're ready to go. And within a few short months that will go so quickly, you will have them on your computer, military grade, aerospace grade, space age grade software, built with some of the brightest minds in the world, ready to go to build the world's next financial economy. And so it's super important that we aggressively market, and it's super important that we really tell people what we've done and why what we've done is so special. So it's going to be a little tough to get as much as we need out as quickly as we can. I'm also unhappy with the documentation, and I've asked Aparna to make that a first-class citizen with the release sprints, so at the launch of Shelly, we'll have completely revamped and redone documentation for the product. And I told her I will not accept substandard documentation anymore. It's very important that it be as pristine as the code and as pristine as the science that we have. So no one's going to sleep much over the next few months, myself included, except for on that couch there. And we're going to continue work until 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. We're going to continue working weekends until we get this damn thing out, because we got a lot of ground to cover, and we got a lot of catching up to do. In many cases, we got a lot of commercial stuff to do. And that's even harder than the things we've already done. But I know we can do it. We have the team of people. I'm proud of my company. I'm proud of our employees. And so far, we've gone many miles together, and there's many miles ahead. So thank you so much for listening. And thank you guys for, as always, being patient and loyal. A lot of cool stuff coming soon. Byron Reboot next month. We'll let you know about the first Shelly testnet on Haskell. The ITN support will continue this month and next month at a bare minimum. Release dates for Shelly will probably come either in this product meeting or the next product meeting. That will be upon his discretion, and it'll be released as a band. And that band will either get sooner or later, and that band will get narrower. And we'll likely announce the official event when we announce the tight band for the launch of Shelly. And a lot of cool stuff coming. And as always, just keep chipping away at it, keeping us honest. And until next time, thank you much. Good night.